See, I'm pushing it with my palm. You would think that I put glue on this or something. Hey guys, Brad here. And today's review is not so much a review, but a look at the Dewalt Tracksaw and just sort of getting to some questions that people have been asking me for probably about a year now. So the main question is, will this work on a Festool track? And the answer is yes. So I will show you why and how to use it, and some reasons why I really prefer the Festool track over the Dewalt track. So first, let's take a look at the Dewalt track. All right. So when I bought this kit, I bought the track separately from the saw itself, and the saw comes with like a T-stack, a battery, and a charger. This is a flex volt track saw, so you can only use your flex volt batteries on it. Okay, and we're using the 6 amp hour flex volt battery on this guy. Now, I did a review on this saw a while ago, so you guys can check out that. I'm not really going to get too much involved into the saw itself and talk more about the track. So the Dewalt track is reversible as far as you can cut on the right side, or you can flip the saw and we can cut on this side. So that's nice, but I found over, I don't know, the last couple of years of using this tool, I've never really needed to do that. It's just not really an issue for me. So that's not really a good reason to buy this track. Now, the reason I don't like the Dewalt track, which I mentioned in my last video, was the fact that it slides. When you lay this track down and you're cutting, it doesn't stick very well to your product, to the plywood, to OSB, to cabinetry, whatever you're doing. It's got a bit of movement, so I feel like you have to clamp it. Now, you have to buy the Dewalt Tracksaw clamps, and they slip underneath into this channel here. All right, there's a channel right here, and they slip underneath, and you clamp them down. Now, I don't have those clamps, so I've never experienced it, but ultimately, I don't like the fact that this moves around. So, behind me here, we've got a Festool track. Now, the big difference between these two is, number one, you cannot cut on both sides with this track. It's only designed to cut on one side. This has T-slots on the top and the bottom, so you can clamp this down with Festool clamps, and they have the same T-slot on the bottom. Now, I'll point this out. This T-slot is not the same size as the Dewalt, so you cannot interchange clamps. And then they've got a T-slot on the top here, which you can use for different jigs and things like that. Now, the big reason why I prefer the Festool track to the Dewalt track is the fact that this, when you lay it down, it takes a lot to push this. See, I'm pushing it with my palm. You would think that I put glue on this or something. When I do the Dewalt, okay, see the difference? So for me, the Dewalt, or the Festool I should say, is just way better. Now, the reason why it's better is they've got this padding here, which I don't know what it is. It just feels like a foam. And Dewalt has one too, but theirs is just a little bit more slippery. And this one's also a little thicker, softer. So there's something in the properties here that make this track stick a lot better than the Dewalt. And now, I've mentioned in the past, you know, tear this off and then go buy the Festool foam. I'm actually not sure if you can do that, but I would think you could. I mean, you can replace this strip, so I don't see why you couldn't replace this foam. I'm willing to bet you can. So that's reason number one why I prefer the Festool track over the Dewalt track. Now, here's another reason, and it's a pretty big reason. And that's money, all right? So let's say you have the saw like I do, and you buy the Dewalt track, but then you also want to buy a Festool router with the with one of the jigs, okay, for doing dados, let's say, or this particular track right here. This one will do your adjustable holes for your cabinetry. So you can't do that with the Dewalt track. You need to have 2 tracks. Now for me, I didn't know when I was getting into this, so had I known all these little details, I wouldn't have bought this Dewalt track. I just didn't know. So that's why I'm here to help you guys. I would say don't purchase this track, all right? It's a waste of money. It's not worth it until Dewalt can adjust it a little bit. If you buy the Festool track, not only do you get a track that sticks really, really well to your product, but it allows you to buy Festool tools that work amazing with this track. And so let's just give an example. You're building some cabinetry and you need to make a cut. So you can make a cut with your Dewalt saw on this track. And then you can use your Festool router to run some dados. And then you can use the other Festool router attachment to run your holes for your hinges, for your adjustable shelving and all that. So you only need 1 track. And these tracks aren't cheap, both of them. They're around $100 or something each. So why not just buy 1 track and then you've solved all the problems. So I guess what I'll do is I'll do some cuts. I will show you quickly cutting on the old Dewalt track, and then I'll do a couple cuts with the Festool here. All right, so we're gonna cut on the right side, and I'm gonna use the Festool vacuum, which fits perfectly in the Dewalt dust port. Like, that does not come out, all right? See that? That's just squeezed in there. That's not coming out. And you all know this saw is kind of heavy. So there we go with that. And let's start off with the Dewalt track. And we'll just take off, I don't know, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, something like that, because I do need this for other stuff. All right. So I'll put my glasses on. And away we go. So we just slide it in the track here. When you start, you don't want to start up front because there's a kerf blade on the back. So you got to start a little bit back of your product. So always have your sled or your track back of your product so that you can plunge down back here and then cut along. If you plunge down in the middle, sometimes the kerf blade doesn't allow you to get in there. All right. So I'm going to turn my vacuum on. So as you can see, it does cut really, really nice. But I'm always nervous that this is just going to move on me. And I don't want to have to think about that when I'm doing a cut. And I really don't want to have to take the time to walk over onto that side, throw a clamp on, and throw a clamp on here. It's just too much time, and, you know, time is valuable. So I'm just not going to do that. Now with the Festool track, it also just feels a little bit more rigid. I don't know, it's just a nicer track. And there is another thing I want to bring up. Now, maybe you guys can help me with this. I've noticed this with this saw before we do this cut. And I'm not sure what's going on, but I want you to listen. There's going to be a clicking noise when I push this down, and I want to know what that is. You hear that? I, for the life of me, don't know what that is. I've taken this plate off, and I cannot figure out what that clicking noise is. Sometimes it doesn't happen when I'm plunging, but other times it does. And it felt like maybe it was the lock for the blade. I'll show you the position I have this in. Okay, this is not depressed. This is in the correct position. And I just don't know if that's a normal sound. I'm gonna have to talk to my rep about it, but if there's anyone out there that knows what that sound is, I'm just dying to know, because it just doesn't feel right. See? It's like there's just something engaging and disengaging, and it's not stopping me from making my cut. It's not affecting the blade, but there's just something in there that's just, see, it's really bugging me. I just don't think that that's normal. So, not that it's affecting my saw, just want to know. All right, so let's get back to this demo here. I'm going to use the vacuum. And my glasses. Do one more. Actually, put it on an angle. So as you can see, it's very, very easy to make that cut on the Festool track. We'll just take a closer look at it. Got a nice angle on there. That was about a 22-degree angle, so no problem. And the track is still nice and intact. So it's like Dewalt knew that people already had the Festool tools before they came out with this tool, and that you know, it was smart. It was very smart of Dewalt to kind of make it work on this track, because not every track is interchangeable with all these tools. So everyone who's kind of copying but not quite copying, it's smart, because people love Festool. And yeah, for me, I'm super stoked that that works with this, because I really dislike that Dewalt track. And I love Dewalt products, but that track just is not up to my standards. So yeah, guys, I'd love to hear some comments, definitely on that clicking noise, because that's driving me mental. You know, you can't hear it on the video, but even when I'm cutting, it makes that noise. You can feel it in the handle, and it just doesn't seem right. So if someone has an answer, I'd love to hear from you. And yeah, hopefully everybody out there who wanted to see this in operation with a Festool track that satisfies your needs and wants, because I love it. So yeah, guys, leave some comments, subscribe, hit that notify bell, give me a thumbs up if you wouldn't mind. Till next time, keep on crushing it, and we'll catch you later.